Welcome.
Hello.
Surprise. Sometimes we just like to pop
Wait,
in.
it's not Friday? It's not Friday, Mitch. What's going on here? Why are we doing this? There's a SWOT in front of
Very
us.
excited. We couldn't wait for Friday.
Spontaneity.
What's going on?
So yeah, I think tomorrow is going to be a busy day. We are going to start dissecting Section 5 for the FDA DAP draft guidance. And
Part A, starting with Part A.
yeah, I think it's going to end up being Part A, and we're going to have to do, separate sections for B and C parts of Section 5, because that is just how significant and important Section 5 really is, I think, for most of us in the industry. That's the real meat and potatoes of this guidance, to me, at least.
Yeah, and
so
admittedly, I'll be the first one to take full blame for that. I was the one who scheduled these live events, and I thought, Section 5, we got an hour, no problem. And then I read Section 5 again. Nope. There's 3 sections. They're all pretty substantial, so it's going to be a pain in the butt to reschedule everything, but I think we are definitely going to have 3 dedicated sections to Section 5, A, B, and C. So if you want to be prepped for tomorrow, just read Section 5 all the way through A, and then we'll be good.
Absolutely. So why not get this SWOT review out for sections 3 and 4, so we're not doing it tomorrow. And I think you may also wanted, I think maybe we talked about it a little bit, you wanted to share maybe another little snip or a comment from...
Yeah, actually, admittedly, I don't have one up. So if you guys want to go over SWOT, I'll find one real quick, or we'll just skip it this week.
I think we can just skip it.
That might be really good community engagement. If you go through the FDA guidance right now and you go through the comments, share the comments on LinkedIn, tag DiversiTrials, and talk about what those comments meant to you. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Let's get a little community engagement in here.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd love that.
Cool.
All right. Well,
do we want to take turns?
Take it away.
All right. I'll go for strengths. I volunteer as tribute. Let's do this. So if you go back to the original interview, we had a few strengths that we went through. Line 168, the FDA was very direct on their expectations of sponsors to create the DAPs. Now, that was only line 168, and I will acknowledge there's a little bit of a difference in the weaknesses on that. So you do see a little bit of a controversy, but at least for that one line, the FDA was very, very clear. Line 180, FDA strongly recommends comprehensive DAP across an entire clinical development program, including early studies. That kind of bleeds into the first sections 1 and 2 that we talked about. Next, the sheer presence of Fedora and this guidance is a strength in the prioritization of the community and society. I think that's probably you can put that strength anywhere, but we talked about it on this episode, and I wanted to show it there. Line 170. A DAP will be required when a study is intended to serve as the primary basis for FDA's evaluation of safety and effectiveness and benefit risk determination. Now, I should say one thing. I was discussing with another organization today, and they said, admittedly, that's the first time they ever heard the term DAP, and they loved it. So DAP is great. Good job, Mitch. They love it. Okay, another strength, Section 4. Now, remember, this is a strength in Section 4, which there's a lot of weaknesses, but Section 4 provides significant footnotes and references and additional literature. They had all kinds of cool things you can read. It just wasn't in Section 4. Line 199, there's an increase in, there's Hadi's favorite word, proportional enrollment of appropriate patient populations who may be consuming a new drug or device. And finally, for a strength, lines 193 through 198, sponsors should consider, quote, combinations thereof for different demographic groups with different responses to medical productions.
Amazing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mitch, if I'll jump in weaknesses, and then maybe I can help with the opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll jump into weaknesses. So part of weaknesses is going to overflow into those opportunities as well. Obviously, they capitalize on each other. So Section 3, we found to be a little bit wishy-washy. Section 3 is the clinical studies requiring diversity action plans. I think part of that issue and what we talked about, and we'll see in opportunities coming up, is essentially this concept of how we'd like to maybe see a little bit more of a flow chart. So if this, then here's your outcome. And do you need a DAP? Essentially, this whole workflow. I think we might actually work on creating one of those ourselves. That's at least the plans this far. Lines 178 to 181 appear to be out of place in the document. That is the last paragraph of section 3. While sponsors are required to submit a diversity action plan for the studies specified above, FDA strongly recommends that sponsors develop and implement a comprehensive diversity strategy across the entire clinical development program, including early studies when possible. So obviously maybe the as specified above isn't necessarily out of place, but it felt when we discussed it and when we read through this multiple times that that's just a significant paragraph. And having that at the end of section 3 almost has that like little undertone, like, oh, we're going to throw this in here at the end. Like, this is what we do strongly recommend. If you bump that up to the top and that's what people are reading first, that's going to set in and create that mindset as you're reading through the guidance documents of, all right, maybe we need to think more than just diversity action plans. And maybe we need to think of this overall comprehensive program approach. Line 148, the term pivotal is vague and requires additional clarification. Absolutely, because as we talked about, pivotal to who? It really wasn't specific on what they meant there. And then section 4 overall out of place in the guidance in general. Disrupts the flow and understanding of the guidance. Is shorter and less comprehensive than the intro and background. I know when I talked about section 4 specifically, that's the whole section titled addressing race, ethnicity, sex, and age group in diversity action plans. This section, it just seemed like a reference section. Like this whole section felt like a footnote because it's just referencing other guidance, deferring thoughts and deferring processes to other guidance is the majority of section 4 to me. And then, we were also part of that weakness there is the lack of how in introduction and background, they were more specific, more intentional with the way they worded things when they're talking about SOGI data. They're talking about socioeconomic status and things like that. And, some of those other aspects were just completely overlooked in section 4. Kicking it over to you, Hadi.
Yeah, I'll keep it sweet and short and as, a couple of things. The proportional enrollment, I know I'm passionate about that. I know you, Mitch, are passionate about that. And we can talk about that for hours. And I know that section 5, part A, discusses that in details. So I bet tomorrow we'll have a lot to share about that. The second thing, yes, to your point, Dr. Fox, is that I personally always love to look at challenges as a way for us to evolve, grow, and turn them into opportunities. So this is something I always, not preach, but I proactively engage in, telling people how we need to actually turn things around. And in fact, I have an organization called 180 Degrees, whereby we can actually just switch over from negative to positive. But anyway, that's another discussion. Let's go over this very quickly here. So yes, you, Mitch, talked about the possibility or actually the need to create a kind of flowchart, process map, whatever you want to call it. But some people are visual more so than trying to read through whatever, the guidance has stated, which is personally confusing to me. So I am more visual in that way. I would definitely love to see a process map or a flow chart, whatever you want to call it, and that's what we use in epidemiology and biostatistics, and in public health, we go by if not this, then this, if not this, then this. So people will actually have a better understanding of what they need to do and what kind of guidances and instructions they need to follow. So I think this is a must for us to really, work on. So the other thing is that, we talked about how Section 4 felt a little short or out of place, or how it needed to be a little beefed up or in sync with the introduction. So there needs to be something done with Section 4 in that regards. So that actually flows better for the reader. Jumping to line 149, please provide clarification to logic, to exempt. And again, we talked about bioavailability and bioequivalence studies. What does that really mean? And where does that really, when does this really happen? Throughout the process of the whole clinical development, drug development, or, I mean, so this needs more clarification, in my opinion. But again, we need to actually turn this into an opportunity for us to really make it better. Again, turn it up to opportunities, and then restructure probably section 3 in a way that really flows more smoothly to the reader. And I honestly believe that the flow chart would definitely help in that regards as well. So last but not least, line 199, although the need for proportions for considerations, safety, let me just enlarge this, safety data beyond minimum requirements may provide additional safety, efficacy, and tolerability in diverse populations. And I bet we're going to have a chance to talk about that tomorrow as well, in more details, because this is like what Section 5 Part A mostly relate to, and that's a great segue to our discussion tomorrow. So that's what I have for today. And threats.
Yeah, take it, Fox.
Want me to take it? All right, so my first thought is we need a fourth person here. We need someone to handle our threats.
Right.
If you want to come on stage and talk about threats to diversity, join the team. I don't want to have to read this twice. All right, so while we wait. So again, line 149, Hadi just touched it. I really do feel that when we talked about it, bioavailability and bioequivalent studies being an exception to DAP plans required are a pretty substantial threat to the objective of the entire guidance.
Right. And you know what I want to add there too is it also goes against the general tone where we've seen almost a lot of contradiction in and of itself. You know, that the paragraph we talked about that required maybe moving up to the top of section 3, and mentioned strongly recommending and developing and implementing comprehensive diversity strategies across the entire clinical development platform. And then in the same sections, then you're talking about, well, bioavailability and bioequivalence are exceptions. It's
honestly, when I read that, my first thought was there's some lobbyist somewhere who tried to get 2 words in the guidance.
Right.
But we'll see. That's all conspiracy theory. We won't talk about that too much. The next threat, section 3 provides an umbrella coverage for drugs. However, it creates contingencies for devices, creating vague and potential misunderstandings to the need for a DAP, and therefore compromising the purpose of the guidance. So for the umbrella coverage from drugs versus the nitty-gritty for the devices is very similar in principle to the whole bioavailability and bioequivalence thing. It's like, I don't understand why we're having exceptions to DAPs.
I mean, we talked about
there may be logic, but
right. There might be, but we talked about, historically we touched on as more diagnostic devices that have known to be issues, but versus interventional devices. But it's remarkably imperative that devices have, these same qualities and same standards in place.
All right, so Mitch and I are going to wrap this up, but Dr. Danawi, Hadi, you have to go. Totally understandable. We love you very much. Big hearts. We'll see you tomorrow. Talk about section 5A.
See you tomorrow, guys. Bye.
All right. Bye, Hadi. All right, so we're going to wrap this up, Mitch. Finally, section 4 is truncated and does not include a comprehensive description of the certain underserved demographic groups. Keep in mind, section 4 doesn't even use the word underserved versus intro background. That is a red flag to me. And in fact, the section doesn't even, I even just said it. They don't even use underserved compared to the background intro. So kind of weird, kind of an odd thing. But
it's weird is a super polite way to say that, considering section 4 is titled Addressing Race, Ethnicity, Sex, and Age Group in Diversity Action Plans. I mean, that seems like addressing the entire concept of why diversity action plans should exist and how we should approach that, how we should handle that. It seemed quite odd. It's like, oh, we need this section, but we don't really know what to say.
And I think Mitch, you just said section 4 just seemed like a footnote. The whole entire section is just a footnote.
It really does. I mean, that's what you get in footnotes is you get like references. It's like a citation section, and that's all you're doing here.
So overall, and thank you everyone out there for providing your comments to the SWOT. I've gotten so many private messages, Mitch, about this thing. People love the SWOT. We love the analysis, but I've said this in text. I'm going to say it again. Do not be silent about this. This is absolutely critical to speak up. So if you care about DEI, if you follow the mission, don't be silent. This is not the time.
Yep. I mean, it's the same thing like I've talked about. I think I maybe mentioned it previously. It's essentially like that right to vote, right? You're given an opportunity to have a voice. And if you want to have a voice, which you should, and you need to have a voice, if you don't exercise that right, then what are you doing? Don't sit there and complain about things not going your way or you're not liking how things are structured when you had the opportunity to talk about it. So that's what we want to do is help bring everybody the opportunities to make sure you have a voice, and we want to talk through it as well. So we'll keep it flowing, we'll keep it growing with the SWOTs, and we'll get there.
Yeah. So quick video, just an update, but guess what? We just saved 17 minutes for yesterday or for tomorrow to talk about Section 5. So
nice.
Get a little bit of a head start.
Yep. And then we will see everyone tomorrow. Take care.
Take care, everyone. See you tomorrow.